Good morning, everyone. I'm debating on whether or not China is our friend or foe. I believe that China is our foe because of not only recent, but they have a history of involvement where they have specifically exploited countries for their resources and for debt trapping. And I believe that if China continues, if Africa continues on this route that they're going down with China, it'll weaken their economic independence. And instead, African governments should strive to serve their own best interests in the short and long term. Otherwise, China will end up controlling all of Africa's resources and their infrastructure in the future. So, Chinese involvement has a long history of debt trapping, and even more specifically with Africa itself. China will offer to build infrastructure and investment capital in different countries for a cut of the business, for let's say 20% stake in the business, or they'll offer to provide a loan to build the infrastructure. So countries have taken loans from China in order to build this new infrastructure and these new businesses, and then when they fail to take them back, China takes the business, or somewhere in their contract they might have where China will own that business for 50 years before they relinquish it back to Africa as a way to repay that loan, depending on how much it is. So countries like Zambia, Angola, the Dominican Republic of the Congo, Mozambique, Ethiopia, Sudan, Kenya, these are all countries that are actually currently indebted to China just in Africa, and I didn't even name them all. China already controls Zambia's broadcasting because of an outstanding loan, which forced Zambia to take another loan in order to get their broadcasting back and hopefully bring a business that will bring them in money to actually pay back China. And they did this by putting up their national electric company. And China is also leveraging to get Zambia's airports in this deal as well. And this is just ways that China is able to effectively debt trap countries who are poor. And that's not even China exploiting the resource. That's China just trying to steal their businesses. China does a lot of the world's production. They need oil, they need gas, they need metals to sustain their manufacturing industry. Otherwise, they won't be able to produce all the same resources that they do now. And Madagascar is abundant in copper, coal, and magnesium reserves, which are all things that China needs to continue their manufacturing. And China, of course, went to invest in Madagascar and pledged a portion of its land. And Madagascar pledged a portion of its land for loans from Africa. And in this agreement, China, if Madagascar does not pay these loans back, China is allowed to take X amount of Madagascar's land as collateral for the loan. The Dominican Republic of Congo also did something like this. They authorized China to take 10 million tons of copper and 420,000 tons of cobalt over a 15-year period for a $9 billion loan to upgrade their roads and rail systems. This loan isn't even this is just what they had to do to get the loan. This doesn't even incorporate paying back the loan. This was all just to get access to this loan that they still have to pay back in that 15-year period. And they're doing all this to of course upgrade their transportation, but if they're unable to pay this back, China will have control not only of their recently built transportation systems, but they'll also have control over their copper and cobalt resources and take even more. If African countries continue to do this, it will weaken their independence. It'll weaken their independence, and they'll end up just being colonized again. Basically, this is a little bit different than how Africa was colonized by the British. British forced them to do this. Instead, Africa's volunteering to play a part in them getting colonized. China, this is a unique form of colonization that we haven't seen before. So China does their colonization through debt trapping. So, China targets poor countries with lots of resources, like most African countries, and China knows these countries can't pay back their resources, and continues to give them huge loans in order to steal their resources. This is very similar to 2008 housing market crash in the U.S. when poor people were getting huge loans from banks that they used to buy homes, and then the market crashed when banks weren't getting paid back by the people taking out these huge loans. The people don't know any better. They're taking out loans and they can't pay them back, and the bank has to claim their house. China is clearly taking advantage of poorly run governments without money, and this is basically just a new form of contracted slavery. So this part will be my rebuttal. I'm just going to make up a question. Let's say that they gave an example how this is helping Cairo. Okay, so this rebuttal will be to them helping the city of Cairo build New Cairo. So even though they might be helping build the new, well, they are building, but even though they're helping build the new city, this isn't actually helping Cairo infrastructure that much. Not only does Cairo not actually have the resources to pay back these Chinese companies that are building it, but they don't have people yet to move into these new places. So when are they planning on getting the the money to pay them back? Not only that, but China's backing out of deals to build these homes and to build these infrastructures in Cairo because they're changing how much they want to do it. And this would make sense if Cairo was at least getting jobs for lots of African citizens during these construction jobs, but this isn't true. In reality, China is actually bringing on their own people to live in Cairo and then build all this infrastructure, build these new homes, build all of New Cairo. And Africa is not seeing the same turnaround. They still have a fairly high unemployment level because China's bringing in new people. So is it really helping Cairo, or is this just another way where China will debt trap them and seize their resources and infrastructure?